One of my favorite things about Halloween is decorating, and of course, decorating with things that you can put lights in or things that light up. Today we have a goofy Goblin Luminary that is actually very easy to put together. It's kind of vintage, reminiscent of a vintage piece, but with kind of a fun twist to it. So it's not too scary, and I'm sure the kids will love it, and I personally really love it. And I can't wait to put this together with you. So let's just dive right in and take a look at what we have here. Now I've kind of started to lay things out because at first glance, it may seem a little confusing, but it's really not. And I'm gonna share a quick little tip with you here that will kind of make everything click and make sense. So we're gonna start with just a small piece here. These are the Goofy Goblin's little arms. And what we've done, and the way this was designed, is we're kind of given this a two-toned look so that everything is not just one color as far as the vellum goes. We wanted to kind of change it up and make it a little more interesting. So we're going to be layering some vellum here. And just to make things easier for you, all you need to remember is that the first layer that you're going to put down is typically going to have larger holes. And these holes are going to sort of encompass the stars, okay? So the tiny little holes are gonna have one color, in this case, this orange, and then we're gonna make the stars a yellow, okay? And we're gonna accomplish that by allowing just the orange to stand behind the tiny dots. And then of course, in this piece, we're not obstructing those dots, but we're covering up the stars, okay? So maybe that was confusing, but all you have to remember is that when you're applying the vellum to all of these pieces, the first layer is, they're gonna wrap around the stars, or you're gonna find the circles that fit the stars. And that's probably the easiest and best way to explain it. So let's just dive right in and I'll show you what I mean. And now, since it's vellum, you don't need a ton of glue, and no one's gonna see this because it all is gonna be inside of our little goblin. So be pretty sparse with the glue. Find the first piece that kind of makes a circle around the stars and put that in place. Make sure that you keep it within the little score mark areas so that it doesn't obstruct any folding that we do. Okay, and that's really it. And then you can see that the little circles here have the orange, and then when we place this piece on top of this piece, we're going to glue it down in a second. I just want to show you the circles are orange, but the stars are yellow. Okay, so whatever colors you use is fine, but we just wanted to show you. And also make sure that when we're putting glue on the second layer, that we don't accidentally put glue on the cutout areas for the little circles that are there, okay? And again, when we place this, you should be able to just place it directly over the existing vellum. And that would be the correct placement. The little holes here will line up as long as you get that aligned correctly. So there you can see the end result. Let's see if I can, yeah, I mean, you should be able to see that okay. Let's do this real quick. Yep, there you go. You can see the two different tones there, the yellow and the orange. Okay, so let's do that one more time. And again, as I mentioned, find the piece with the larger holes in it that kind of create a circle around the stars. And let's put that piece down first. So this project actually is pretty straightforward once you figure out the little tip that I'm sharing with you. And just get everything, oops, well that wasn't good. Get everything kind of mentally sorted in your head. The rest of it will just kind of fall into place, okay? So again, we're putting this layer, the first layer down to illuminate the little holes, and then this piece here will allow the light to hit just the orange and also illuminate the stars with a yellow. And there it is again. Okay, so we're gonna be basically doing the same thing here. Let's go over to this piece real quick. And I've got these kind of sorted. You may have to kind of move these pieces around to find the right ones that fit, okay? But like I said, and just to show you again, you'll notice on this piece here, this piece of vellum that I'm putting down, all the stars are not covered. Star, 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 star. All the dots and the moons are covered, okay? So that's all you really got to remember. So let's put this piece down and just do some dots throughout this. You don't have to cover like every little square inch. I think that as long as you do enough dots throughout the design, it will stay for you very nicely. Okay, so let's do that. And when we place this piece down, just make sure that you are not obstructing anything else and get them nice and aligned over the stars. There we go, bam. Okay, just like that. And also keep your eyes on the sides here so that you're not obstructing any of the folds either, okay? And then grab your glue. And now with this piece of vellum on here, you actually almost have like a guide as to where to put the vellum and be more precise with it. Not that you need to be, but also, again, make sure that you don't accidentally put vellum on the cutouts for the layer below. Okay, so then find this next piece that will fit right onto this, like so. Okay, there we go, that's perfect. And let's take a look, and there you go. So you can see here, the stars are yellow, moons and the little dots are orange, and that is perfect. So let's go on to the next piece here. Again, find the one that has the larger holes cut out for the stars, and get your glue on here. Just dots are fine. Can't wait to see what you guys do with this new bundle. I know for a fact that I think the luminaries are going to be your favorites, and that little candy dish I think is going to make a great little gift as well. Okay, so again, place this down. Keep your eyes gazing at the stars. Sounds romantic, doesn't it? And just give that a pat. Make sure that you're not obstructing the little score mark areas there. And when we add the next layer, just make sure you don't put any glue on the cutouts below this vellum. And if you accidentally do, it's not the end of the world. But just try to be kind of careful. Okay. And just match that up with the shape of the other piece of vellum there. It should fit perfectly, as it does, as always. There we go. Pat that down. Let's take a look at that. That looks good. And even if you're just a tiny bit off, it's not a huge concern. All right, so find your next piece that has the holes cut out for just the stars. There it is. And get that glued down. Again, no one's going to see this on the inside, so don't really need to worry about it. It's going to be hidden very nicely. If you want to do lines, you can. I just prefer the dots with the vellum because I have more control, and also I don't get as much spill. Okay, so there we go, just like that. And again, making sure that I'm not putting glue on the dots that are cut out from that front layer. Okay. And then the other side is a little bit different, but pretty much the same. So just get that in place and give it a push. There we go. Okay, it's gonna look cool. It's gonna look really cool, actually. All right, so that's done. Let's move on to this. Move these out of the way for a second. This one's a little bit different because this is where the goblin's face is, which is fine. All right, so again, same process. Find the small little piece of vellum that has the cutout for the star, okay? and just pop that right over. Make sure that you don't obstruct the star. Let me move this guy out of the way real quick so that we don't get confused here. And then apply your glue onto this piece here. Don't cover up that little dot there. And there we go. Okay, so that is in place. Same thing on this side. Let's get our glue right around the star and cover that up. Make sure you're not obstructing the little score marked areas as well. Okay, we want that to fold over nicely without the vellum getting in the way. And then let's finish that off with just a few more dots. And that should go right over the star and also over that little cutout there, so that you can see here, we've got orange here, yellow, yellow, orange. And also there's some guides here to help with the placement of the arms, which we'll show you here in just a moment. Okay, so moving on to the bottom here, finding the piece with the 2 holes cut out for the stars, and get your glue on here. Just some dots is all you need. And go ahead and place that down. Make sure you're not obstructing the stars and that you're covering up the little cutouts for the dots. And moving on, I think actually this is probably something you could do with a child. It's pretty straightforward if you wanted to craft with someone, like a child, grandchild, niece or nephew, whatever it is. Okay. All right, moving on to this side here, same thing. Let's get our glue down. Just like that. And just make sure that you don't cover up the stars and get it aligned nicely. Don't let it hang off the edge here, and make sure it's not encroaching on the score marks either. Go and just cover that up like so. All right, we got 3 more pieces of vellum to go here, and it'll be done before you know it. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay down, now this is a 3rd color of vellum, it's red, that's for the goblin's face, and I'm going to put that down first before I put down this other piece, just like that. And just make sure that you have his mouth and his eyes covered nicely. Keep it nice and centered so it doesn't encroach over the boundary there for the score marks. Okay, so that's perfect. And now again, with this piece, find the one that has the cutouts for the stars. And then we can go ahead and add our glue. Dot, 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 dot. There we go. And I'm just kind of keeping my eyes on the stars, making sure that I'm not overlapping or obstructing them, while also making sure that I'm covering up the parts that need to be covered up, the little dots. And this one is a little bit of a tight squeeze, but should be fine. Just make sure that, again, you're not obstructing it. That fit perfectly. All right, so let's finish this up with our last piece of vellum here. Get your dots on there. It's going to be a really cool piece. Actually, had a little fun today on my birthday and went to my favorite antique market in Geneva, and wouldn't you know, they're already pulling out all their Halloween stuff, and I got a chance to look at some really cool vintage stuff, and didn't pick anything up yet because I wasn't totally in love with it, but it's one of my favorite things to do. All right, so there we go. And there is the final result for our vellum. That looks great. Okay, so, man, this thing is going to go together pretty quick because that's the body. And actually, you know what? Well, yeah, you know what? Let's go ahead and put this thing together. So these 2 pieces are going to connect right here. And you'll notice that there's some cutouts on the tabs so they don't obstruct the actual vellum portions here. We had to do that to make it all kind of work together. So get your glue on the tabs here, or on the tab, not tabs. And then I'm going to do a nice thin line right up to the edge as well, because I want it to really be nice and neat and connect nicely. I'm going to rub that glue and spread it nice and thin. Okay, and then just make sure that you get it nice and lined up, like so. And you'll know that you got it lined up, because we're going to flip it over here in just a second and take a look at the positioning of it, because it should not be obstructing the existing cutouts on the other side. Okay, so you can see here the hole on the tab is aligned nicely and perfectly, actually. So give that a push. Now I'm gluing onto vellum right now, so we do want to kind of give it an extra second to let it set so it doesn't come off. That vellum is pretty slick compared to paper. Okay, but that looks great. That's a good seam. Everything seems to be holding nicely, and we can actually work with this flat, so that helps a lot as well. And we can go ahead and close this up at this point, and we're not going to put the top on just yet, because we're going to put the arms on while it's flat. I think that would be the best route. Okay, so getting glue on this next little tab on the other side so we can close it up, and of course one fine little line right up along the edge. And spread that nice and thin right to the very, very edge. Okay, and then we can literally take this and just fold it and just kind of close it up. It should meet up perfectly. There we go. And again, just give it an extra second or two to set because of the vellum. And we're going to keep this thing nice and flat. There we go. And if you feel like you need to give it a little nudge here or there, go ahead and do so, but I think that's actually worked out very nicely. Technically, it should go on perfectly while it's flat, for some weird geometric or scientific reason. Don't ask me to explain it, but anyway. Okay, so let's get our arms here. Okay. We're going to end up curling these. I'm going to do that later. I don't want to mess with it just yet. But what we want to do is we do want to grab a dowel, and I'm going to put a 3/8 inch dowel right in the center, and I'm going to kind of wrap this around the dowel because we want to give it kind of a round feel like this. Okay, I want to make it a little bit round. We don't want it flat. And make sure you do this after the vellum is nice and dry. Just kind of wrapping it around the dowel so that I don't crease it and make it unsightly. And we want to put some glue on this tab here. And I'm going to run that right out to the very edge. And then just close it up. Okay, and we can actually, might as well just kind of do that flat. Well, actually we can't do it flat, sorry, because we need to keep it wrapped around. And we need to keep it kind of round. I'm sorry, that's what I meant. Okay, so kind of glue that down to that little tab there while trying to keep its shape. So yeah, don't push it down like I did. And give that a second to really dry, and then what we're going to do is just kind of squeeze it to bring out that round shape a little bit more. So just make sure that that dries completely. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw a little extra glue on just a scrap piece of paper. There's one little area here that I just didn't get enough glue on. I'm going to paint that on there and just kind of give it a squeeze in that section there so that it really gets a good hold. Okay, and that is what our arm is going to look like. We've got a little hand for our goblin that we're going to adhere to this piece as well. And we can do that in just a second here. Okay, we have one more little piece here that's shaped like this. We're gonna glue this right on here, and that is going to just kind of make this a little more rigid and easier to work with. Okay, so I'm just putting glue on this piece here. I'm gonna grab this little triangular piece and just glue that right on there. And just follow it right up. It's gonna be a little bit shorter than the actual arm, the main arm piece. And it's gonna be rounded at the top. But just make sure that you get that glued down nicely. Okay, and then eventually we're gonna glue that onto the body, but we're gonna put the little hands on there first. So let's just do the same thing with the other arm here. Okay, and again, I'm gonna take my dowel and just kind of just push it while I'm cupping it in my hand. Okay, and then maybe just kind of run the dowel back and forth a little bit. You could probably do this without a dowel, but I'm afraid that I would just crease it down the center, and I wanna try to avoid that if possible. Okay, so then let's just get our glue on the little tab here. And less is more on this piece, I think, because I don't want to overdo it and then have a hard time getting it to stick. Okay, so you got to kind of squeeze this together until that little triangular part meets up right with the edge there. Otherwise, yeah, see, that's kind of I needed to kind of cup it a little bit more and make it a little bit more round, because it's not, it's kind of want to pull away. And again, we want this edge here to be flush with this edge here, right on that little tab there. So just make sure that you get that lined up properly. There we go. I think I got it that time. Yep, that's better. Okay, be patient while that sets, because again, we are going to kind of bend that back to make it a little bit more round. But in the meantime, and yeah, this will kind of, this piece also kind of holds that in place. So let's get that next piece down here. Just pop it right on there. Just make sure you're not obstructing the little hole where the light will eventually penetrate to illuminate the little stars there from your little tea light. Okay, so just give it a good squeeze. Make sure that adheres nicely. There we go. All right. Okay, so let's take our little hands here. And now these pieces are identical as far as the stars and everything go. The hands are going to kind of come in like this. Okay, so he's kind of holding his hands coming inward, so like this. Okay, you don't want them facing outward like that. You want them coming in. Okay, and the hands are going to get glued right to, they're going to be flush with this portion here, and you can glue it underneath if you want. I don't think it really matters because no one's really going to see it. So, but again, just make sure that you do the opposite on one that you do on the other. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue right here and just tuck it under, and just use your finger here just to make sure that that's nice and flush there. Okay, I guess you can put it on the outside, but I'm just putting it on the inside just to kind of make it look more polished. There we go. Okay, and the hand will be a lot more visible once we curl these. We're going to take a little dowel and curl these to kind of flare them up. But again, when you're doing the other hand, just make sure you remember which way that hand is going, so you don't get them facing all kind of weird or anything. You want them facing inward. Yep, there we go. So just a little bit of glue right there. And yep, that's right. Just make sure it's nice and flush. and lined up with the top part here on the little triangle, the inner part of the triangle. There we go. And it's probably, you don't want to try to squeeze the whole piece at this point, because it's kind of taken its shape and it's going to stay that way now. So just be kind of careful. Okay, so there we go. So that is what it should look like. Okay, and again, we're going to flare these out once we get closer to the end of the assembly here. And I am going to, you can see here that this glue, my glue job, is kind of coming apart here. So I'm going to clean that up real quick by putting a little bit of glue on a scrap piece of paper, and I'm just gonna feed that in and paint some glue up and down this little piece here. And then just give it a little extra love. Just be patient with it. This paper is kind of like a pearlescent paper, so it's not as, it just doesn't have the same properties as like the AC cardstock. Not as many fibers, and maybe it just takes a little extra patience to get it to stick. Okay, so now that we've got that all assembled and we've got the little arms here, I'm going to take a 1/4-inch dowel, and I'm just going to take and curl each of these little pieces here, and curl them up so that they look like that. And again, that's going to expose the hands a little bit more, and maybe just try to keep the curls, you know, random, I guess, but maybe the middle one should be curled a little bit more, or a little bit less, I should say, so it kind of looks like that. Okay, I think that's good, and you can actually maybe curl it a little bit tighter. Let me get a thinner dowel. I want that tip to be nice and curled there at the bottom, like that. There we go. Just give those a curl, like that. Okay, just like that. Grab the other side, do the same thing. And this paper has a tendency to kind of crease when you do that. If you're using AC cardstock, you probably won't run into that, but because of its sheen, it kind of hides it pretty well. You can see that it's kind of creasing it more from the inside, and that's not a problem because I'm not really going to see that. So there we go, there's that. And then I think I'm going to take the hands and kind of curl them in a little bit so that they're not just straight, so they're kind of curving inwards around the body. Okay. Just ever so slightly, like that. Okay, so got that done. Now, as I mentioned, there's a little score mark here. It's like it's almost a triangle. It's just missing a bottom. And that is to help you place this piece on here. Okay, and when we do that, it will help us ensure that we're not obstructing the little cutout here. So let's get our glue on this triangular piece here. And actually, let me just double check and make sure that that triangular piece fully encompasses. Yeah, so as long as we get our glue, I would focus the glue more on the inside part of the little triangular cutout, but also make sure that you get it to the very tip there as well. Okay, so let's get that on there. And again, just make sure that you have the hand on the correct side. And I'm just going to take the point, match it up there nicely, make sure it's centered nicely, and just push that down. And just be patient with this. We don't want it pulling apart. And just get that glued on nicely. And just hold it in place for just a moment, like that. Okay, and we're going to do the other side here in just a sec. And then once we do that, we're going to close this up and kind of form its final shape. And then we can add our little accent pieces to the top and bottom. We've got a little bit of hair for our goblin, and we've got a little skirt thing as well. Okay, so there we go. That looks good. All right, I'm going to keep this flat for now so we can do the other side. And same thing here. Put the glue right up to the top, but then on your way down, kind of keep it to the inside of our little triangle here, the cutout. That's all we really need. Okay, and get that lined up with your little marker there. And make sure that it's nice and centered. And just push that down. Okay, if you want, you could take a little dowel and push that in there to push down in some of those areas. I think pushing down from the top is probably enough, but it's an option. Let me kind of help the process a little bit. Okay, there we go. Okay, so you can see what's starting to happen here. Our goblin has arms now and hands, and that seems to be holding pretty well. But I am going to err on the side of caution, and I'm going to leave that sit for a minute so that it doesn't just accidentally come off. Let's put together our base real quick. Okay, and our base is made up of these pieces here. Let's construct the main part of the base first. So you want to take and fold everything at the score marks here first. Okay. This will go together pretty quick as well. We've got little triangular tabs. That's where the majority of the glue is going to go to kind of connect everything and make it all together. And I'm going to start here on this piece. And I just kind of move this out of the way so that it's easier to work with this piece. Okay, so just get a little bit of glue right on that triangular tab, bring it up, and then bring this in and just push that triangular tab up against the wall of this piece here. Make sure you got it nice and lined up, and then give it a squeeze so that it sticks nicely for us. Let's be careful there. Good, that worked nicely. Okay, and let's get this other side. So let's get our glue on this tab here on the other side of where basically our lid is. And lift this up and get it nice and aligned and give it a squeeze and hold it in place. This is where you want to take a little extra time to hold everything in place because we've got a little bit of weight here that may want to pull that apart. And I figured we start there just to get it out of the way. And I would probably be a little more patient to let that set, but I'm feeling kind of risky here. Let's get our glue on the next triangular tab and pull this up, get it nice and aligned, and give it a squeeze, just like that. Okay, moving right along. Next little tab here. There we go. And get that connected. We got a little bit of glue squirting out, but that's okay because we actually have a nice little accent piece that's going to go around this. So if you get a little glue that seeps out, it's not the end of the world. You're going to be just fine. Okay, next little tab here. And just get that connected. And give it a squeeze and hold it. Hold it. There we go. And the last one. I'm going to try not to move that out of the way. I'm going to just kind of stick my glue bottle in there. There we go. And connect it. Squeeze and hold. And then this is going to be my top because it already has that base connected. So even if this piece doesn't go on perfectly, you're still going to have a perfect top. But we're gonna make it perfect because we're good at this. Okay. All right. So now we just have to close this up. So let's get our glue on the main section, main part of the tab, and then as always, we get a nice little line right along the very edge that we're going to spread nice and thin to get a nice clean seam. Oh, this bottle is getting close to being exhausted. Yeah, get a little more there. There we go. There we go. And there we go. Maybe a little bit more there. Beautiful. All right, and then flare these up just a tad. Then go ahead and close it up. Focus on this section here and make sure that that is nice and perfectly aligned. The rest of it should then fall into place, and kind of go around, push down with your thumb and run it right along that edge with a nice firm, but not too much of a downward force. We don't want to break the walls of this thing. And there we go. Got ourselves a perfect little platform for our Goblin. This is where your tea light's going to go. Okay, and I think we did a pretty darn good job there. Yeah, everything looks really nice. So again, that's going to be my top. I'm flipping it over. This is the piece that we just closed, but that's going to be my top. And we can move on to this little piece here. We've got some score marks on this. Just make sure that when you do fold it, that it folds nice and it overlaps over itself perfectly. Okay, and I've kind of done this a few times already. We're going to glue this on like so. Okay, so let's start in the center. Get my glue right into the middle of this thing. Okay, and then find a side, drop it right on there. Make sure that the little edges here line up with the edges of the actual platform, and hold that for just a moment. Just make sure that it sets. Okay, like that. And then while that's still kind of drying, we can move on over to this next side, and then also make sure that you get glue right out to the edge of that. Okay, and then just flap it right over. Make sure you got it nice and lined up like that. And just hold it in place for just a moment. Let it set. This is a really cool paper, actually. I like the little pattern on there. Reminds me of like a witch's stockings. Okay, and finally, the last little piece here. Again, make sure you get that glue right to the very edge so that doesn't come flailing off. And then just pop that right on there. And hold it for just a moment. Make sure that it really gets a good grip. And then we're going to repeat that same process with this piece here, and just to get it on the other remaining three sides here. Okay, so that looks good. Again, when you fold this, just make sure that it folds nice and even on both sides. You don't want it kind of skewed off to one side. There we go. And get your glue right in the center. And then find the other middle, okay, and pop it right on there. There we go. Yeah, we're getting pretty close. We just have to put a little hat together. The base is almost done. And I'll be wrapping this up shortly. Good job so far. Hope you're having fun. I know I am. I always love crafting for Halloween. Can't wait till you guys see the next bundle. I'm already getting excited for it. Okay, and close that up. Should meet up with that other piece very nicely. Okay, just hold that down. Make sure you get it nice and lined up. There we go. And last little section here. Get your glue on there, and then of course right out to the edge. Place that right on there. Bam. Perfect. Okay, give it a few seconds. And move right along to, there we go. All right, so we're gonna create a little lip for this thing so that when we put the Goblin on it, it won't just fall over. Okay, so what we wanna do is we wanna fold the little tabs on this, okay, and keep it consistent with the way that you fold it. Okay, and then we're going to take and connect these two pieces together to make one long piece, and then eventually connect it to itself to make like a six-sided lip. Okay, so just throw a little bit of glue right on that little triangular tab. It's kind of a little delicate piece, but it's fine. You don't want to take your time. And actually, I'm going to fold this onto itself to help me with the gluing. So I can just kind of pinch it. Okay, hopefully you can see what I'm doing there. I'll show you here in a second. There, see, now it's one piece. I just kind of folded it over on itself so that I can just squeeze it like that to get everything nice and connected. Okay, and I'm gonna just fold everything at the score marks to make life easier later. And then go ahead and get your glue on that other little triangular tab. And then just connect the other side. And you can totally just lay it on top of the other piece and just pinch it to glue it together. Just like that. Okay, and now so you can see what we have here. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this piece and we're gonna pop it right through like so. Should fit through there nicely, just like that. Okay, and then we're gonna glue those tabs to this piece here. So that's what it should look like, okay? And don't need to get too crazy here, just a little bit of glue on each tab. You don't wanna overdo it because you don't want it spewing out like I just did. And just glue that down. And then we're gonna take this whole thing and glue it to the actual base here. Okay, so I'm just lifting back the tab a little bit and just putting just a few little, maybe just a few little tiny little lines of glue in there, and then putting it back down on my surface and gluing it to this shape here. Okay, there we go. Just lifting the tab up, you can see there. Throwing a little bit of glue on there, not too much, just so that it sticks. And then I'm using my table as kind of leverage here so I can push down as a little stopper, I guess. Okay, there we go. A couple more tabs here. Like I said, you don't need a lot. And just glue that down. It's all in the little details. It's really cool to have a little lip there so this thing doesn't go flying all over the place. You can actually carry it and not worry about it getting all destroyed because it fell over. It's not a really tall lip, but it does the trick, so that's all that matters. All right, last little tab here. Peel that back. Throw a tiny little bit of glue in there and close that up. Okay, so there we go. Our lip is complete. And we're just going to glue this right to the top of our base here. Okay, and all we need to do is just put glue around this perimeter here, obviously. So let's do that. And then I also want to just make sure that I get enough glue right out to the edge as well. I want to close that seam, make it nice and tight. Okay, I'm just going to grab it and just kind of paint that glue out to the edge. Do your best. Okay, and I think I don't really need to explain how this is going to go on. You just want to line it up with the base and then just run your finger along the perimeter to get that to adhere nicely. There we go. Perfect. And give it a little extra love if it needs it. There we go. Okay, so our base with our little lip is complete. And our Goblin is pretty much done. We just have to put his hat together. And yeah, getting there. All right, so I'm gonna grab my Goblin here. And let me change the focus here a little bit. There we go. Okay, so to close him up, what we're gonna do is just put glue on these little tabs here so we can close them up. So just a few little dabs here and there. Yeah. Just like that. Hopefully you can see that, yeah. You should be able to see that. And then just close it up. Make sure that you get that nice and aligned on all sides. It's a little tricky because it wants to shift. But once you find the right placement, just hold it and be patient, and it will eventually start setting and you'll have it perfect. And there's going to be a hat that goes on top of this. So even if it's not totally perfect, it will still look nice. But do your best because we still have to put his little hair on here. Okay, there we go. All right, just be patient while that sets. If you're using cardstock, yours may already be set. Mine is taking a little bit longer, but that's okay. Okay, there we go. All right, so he's starting to really take shape here. And make sure he fits over our little lip. There we go. Okay. Yeah, he fits nicely. That's good. Thank you, Mr. Goblin. All right, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to put our little trim on the bottom here. Okay, and I'm going to start by making sure that the little cross tombstone is nice and front and center there. So just like we've been doing actually quite a lot in this project, we're going to start in the center and work our way to the side there. And that ought to do it. Just make sure that you get it nice and lined up there. Kind of use those little fold areas as a guide, and also make sure that it's nice and flush with the bottom. Okay, there we go. And just give it a squeeze and get that to grip. Okay, that seems to be holding nicely, and then we're just going to connect the other sides here. The top is holding nicely as well. I'm just going to fold this back a little bit and get my glue on this section here. And just peel that, or not peel it, but fold it over. And just push down. Make sure again that it's nice and flush here at the bottom. Okay, and give that a second to set. Again, this paper really does not want to stick as well as my AC cardstock does, but it is definitely looks really nice, and it has that little glow to it. I think we use this in some of our Christmas projects too. Okay, there we go. And just fold that over. Give it a press. Be patient. Again, make sure that it's flush with the bottom. Okay, that looks good. Very cute. Oh wow, that's a really nice touch actually. Would have looked a little plain there without that little graveyard. It's almost like he's a giant goblin coming out of a graveyard. Okay, so I'm going to grab this next piece here, and we're going to do the same thing, just starting in the center. So I'm going to apply my glue to the center part on this piece, like so, and get that lined up with the center there. Make sure it's nice and flush at the bottom, and give it a squeeze to push that into place. How's my hands looking here? Looking good. Okay. And that is nice and flush. Good. All right, let's pull this back and get our glue on this piece here. There we go. And just fold that over. It should meet up pretty nicely there. Yeah, that's perfect actually. It's good. Okay, nice and flush at the bottom. All right, let's wrap it up here on this side. Same thing. Just throw a little glue on there. And bam. That lines up perfectly. Just always gotta, when I get through these projects here and everything just lines up so beautifully and perfectly, I always gotta give a big thanks to Ron, who does a great job designing these, and then Diana for engineering them so perfectly so that everything just goes together so meticulously and accurately. So there's that. The little graveyard scene is all set on our little goblin. Now we're gonna throw some hair on our goblin. Okay, so what we want to do is basically doing the same thing we just did with the little graveyard there. We're gonna fold this, but what we also want to do is take a dowel and kind of curl this up. So I'm going to train it, but then I'm also going to curl the little pieces of hair up so that it's almost like, I don't know, almost like he used some hairspray or something. So it's not just flat. Yeah, this paper doesn't train as well as AC cardstock, but it's fine. It'll get the point across. It's a little more rigid, I guess. Okay. So this, obviously we don't want the hair to go on the front of his face. We just want it, let me see here, like that, so that that middle panel here does not have any hair on it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on the back as usual. I'm going to put glue on the center here. And you don't need to go all the way down, just sort of towards the top. Okay, make sure you're directly on the back when you glue that first section in place, like that. And then kind of wrap the other two around just to make sure that you've got the right angle. Okay, like that. Okay, I can kind of peel this back and just apply glue to the next section here. And just keep wrapping it around. There we go. Hold that. Grab the last section here. And close it up on that side. Like that. There we go. Perfect. And then here, I think we can just finish it off with the last two. Wrap it around. And I'm just going to use my pointer finger and my thumb to kind of hold that in place like that. There we go. Okay, so literally all that is left to do is put his little hat together. The hat's got a cute little bat accent on it. And we'll be done here with our cool little goblin. All right. So there he is on his little pedestal. Very cute. The hat is really going to take this over the top. So let's take a quick look at, oh, by the way, we have a little nose for him. It's a really small little piece. It's about that big. Let's just get our glue on that. If you have your little pick-me-up tool, now would be the time to use that. And his nose is going to go right in the center here. The pointed area, like the pointed portion of it, the more narrow portion, I should say, just points up like that. You want it pretty much, well, let's see, where do we want it? I would say, yeah, actually, that's about right. Well, it's kind of crooked. I don't want him to look like he got into a fight with a crooked nose. Whoops. Whoops. There we go. Come on, nose. There it goes. There goes the nose. Okay. All right, so wrapping things up here with our little hats. Let's just have some paper piecing fun here for just a second. And here, let me zoom in on this. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna connect these two pieces. Connect or glue. I wish we could just connect things. Okay. All right, so get the black part onto our purple part. That's just going to be a nice little touch to our Goblin's hat. Okay, let that kind of set. And this is a pretty easy hat to put together. I've got this piece here, I already inked it, and we've got little tabs here. And I just want to put a little bit of glue on each of these little tabs and connect it to its neighboring piece. And it's a very slight angle. I'll show you here in a second. But be patient while that sets, because it is kind of a thin little, it's a thin little tab. But you can see what that looks like. It's a very subtle little angle there. Okay, so moving on here, you can see the next little tab. I'm just going to put a few little dots of glue on there, try to get it out to the edge, and just connect it with the next piece here. There we go. Okay. So this is like the brim portion of the hat. All right, next little tab. Just spread that out. And the next piece, moving right along. This little plaid pattern here makes it a little hard to see where the angles are, but I think I got it. Okay, and a couple more little tabs here, and we'll be done with this part of the hat. Okay, get that glued into place. Give it a squeeze and hold it. Just be patient. Yeah, we're going to take and we were going to connect the hat and make it all one piece, but then it'd be hollow here and it wouldn't have anything to glue we wouldn't have a surface to put glue on so that we can put it on top of our Goblin's head. So that's why we had to make it two pieces, but that's fine. It'll all work out. Get that in there, there we go. Okay. All right, so that part is all but done. Almost done, actually. We've got a little accent piece here that we're going to put on it. So just go ahead and fold it right at the little score mark there. And then we're going to adhere that to the very edge of the hat, like this. Okay, so again, we're going to start in the center. So let's get our glue right on that center there. And I'm going to just leave it on my table. Use the table base, or the table as kind of a guide initially, and then I'll pick it up and push it down to make sure that it's nice and flush with the hat there. And give it a squeeze. Okay, that should be good enough. And we can fold this over. Again, make sure you get that glue right at the very edge on this little strip here. And fold that over onto the hat. And press and squeeze. go. That looks nice. Grab our other piece here, do the same thing, just fold it onto itself and line it up as you're folding it to make sure that you got the correct fold. Should match perfectly when you fold it over. And then get your glue on the center. And pop it right in the center of the other side. Give it a squeeze. All right, and that should connect nicely, like a glove. Fits perfect. Okay, and then let's wrap this part up. Oh, forgot to get that glue out to the very edge there. And close that up. And that is nice. Okay, so the bottom of the hat, the brim portion is done. Now we've got the top of the hat, and this is nice because it's just one piece. There's literally just like two little sections that well, three maybe, that you have to glue. But get your tabs folded just to make life easier. Okay, and then just wrap it around. And there's a little tab here that we're going to put glue on. And we'll spread that right out to the edge. And we can work with this flat, actually. We should be able to, I think. Yep. So you can see where I've got the glue there. I'm just going to fold that right over onto where that glue is. Just work with it flat. So much easier that way. Give it a press. Okay, there we go. And then it's up to you if you want to go top or bottom. I would probably glue the bottom on first, like that. So let's get our glue on these tabs. And then just spread it a little bit. And just dab it right out to the very edge. There we go. Okay, and then go ahead and close this up. And this may be a little finicky. These shapes tend to be, but focus on getting the opposite side aligned, and then everything else should kind of fall into place, which it just did. So that's perfect. And then, of course, make sure you're applying pressure all the way around. You can put it down on your table once you've got it lined up nicely. You can stick a dowel in there to add a downward force. There we go. And that is not quite perfect, but there we go. Just got to nudge it in a little bit. There we go. Okay. All right, so there's another little section here on top with some tiny little tabs. You can just pull those or fold those over with your finger, or I'm just using a dowel. And you can see that we have 5 little triangular tabs here. I'm just going to dab them with glue. I don't think I can get too precise with that. There we go. And then just close it up. I think that does make it easier because the bottom was a lot easier to get aligned, and it kind of forces all these other tabs up on top to stay put while this part glues down. So that actually worked out very nicely, very easily. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to take this piece and glue it to this piece, and then when we're done, we're going to take and wrap the band around, and that's pretty much it. We'll just throw the bat on there with a little foam square or a pop dot, and I'm going to add some tiny little pearls onto the bat to give him some eyeballs. Okay, so let's get our glue on the bottom of this thing, and I'm going to spread that all the way out to the very edge, all the way around, so that it sits nice and flush all the way up to the edge. Okay, and just line that up nicely with the other piece, like so. Just like that. You can give it a nice give it a nice amount of pressure, but don't break it, obviously. And then the little band here is actually going to cover up that little seam there, so it's going to make it look like all one piece, and it's going to make life easy for us. There we go. That seems to be in place. So finally, our little band here, go ahead and fold it. And again, I would start probably in the middle. Now it's six-sided, so there really isn't a middle, but pick one of the two that are nearest the middle, or just do both that are in the center. And just take that and match it up with one side here. Match it up with the other side. You can see what I'm doing. I'm just wrapping it around, kind of keeping it towards the base there, so that, again, we're hiding that little seam that we created when we connected those two sections together. And just be patient, and then peel this back. Get our glue on the remaining two little sections here. I literally think this glue bottle is just about done, and luckily I'm done as well. Okay, so just continue wrapping that around. Make sure you keep it nice and low to hide that little seam there. Yeah, that does look seamless, literally, which is really cool. Okay, and I'm gonna nudge that up just a tad. There we go. All right, so we can peel back these last two sections, get our glue on there, get that out to the very end, and close it up. Perfect. All right, now while I'm holding that, I'm going to get our little foam square here and pop that on the back of my bat, like that. Okay, now, of course, we're going to put glue on the top of Mr. Goblin's head. And we're going to glue that right to the top, just making sure that you have it lined up nicely. Find what you would consider your favorite side or the best side. I'm going to put some glue on here too, just so that we get a nice connection here. You can see what I'm doing. It might be a little blurry from up here, but I'll probably cut to the other camera angle so that you can see it nicely and clearly. As far as what I'm doing, well, there it is. There's Mr. Goblin. I'm going to let that set nicely. And then what we can do is just take, and I'm going to peel off the backing on this, and we're going to put the little bat on his head, because for some reason bats tend to follow goblins around. In the Dreaming Tree world, that's what they do. Okay, and that seems to be not that seems to not be stuck on there yet, but I'm just going to pop that on like that. Okay, so he's hanging out there. I'm going to cake this up with a little bit more glue so that it really just bonds nicely for me. And we can go over to this angle here so you guys can see the end result. There he is, our goofy Goblin Luminary, ready for your tea light. Bam. Hope you guys had fun putting this together with me. I sure did. I think the result is really cool, and I can't wait to see what he looks like when I light him up. So if you did enjoy the video, please take a moment and visit our YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button. And if you do make this project or any of the projects from our new Halloween bundle, we'd love to see your version of it. So look us up on Facebook, go to facebook.com and do a search for Dreaming Tree Group. Join myself and almost 7,000 other dreamers that post, at this point, I would say probably close to 100 projects a day. I don't know the exact number, but it seems like quite a bit. So I hope to see you there. Thanks again for joining me, and I look forward to crafting with you again. Stay on top of all things Dreaming Tree and engage with us today. Get the latest news and enter in our giveaways on Facebook. Get inspired by following us on Pinterest. Be the first to see our new product launches on Instagram. Do you prefer Twitter? Yep, we're there too. Watch our beautiful product trailers and assembly tutorials on YouTube. For more information, visit www.ScanNCut.com. www.3dsvg.com. Live, craft, love, and dream.